Let's talk a little LeBron MJ. What? I know, it's not that bad. He opened up a little bit talking about Michael Jordan, saying that he has never compared himself to MJ because MJ was score first and he's pass first. He also went on to say that his game, a little better than Jordan's, but they're both great players. You always have.
A recent interview involving LeBron James has reignited the never-ending debate over basketball greatness after he spoke positively about Michael Jordan before drawing comparisons to his own career. While LeBron's praise for Jordan appeared genuine, many fans quickly focused on his comments about his own game, sparking fresh arguments across the sports world. Supporters see it as confidence from a player with one of the greatest resumes in basketball history, while critics view it as another chapter in the ongoing GOAT conversation. Either way, the remarks have once again put both legends at the center of a debate that never seems to fade.
Story came out today on ESPN from Dave McMenamin. He was supposedly conducting many interviews with LeBron James throughout the NBA season, talking about a range of different topics. But during a trip to Chicago, Michael Jordan's topic came up. And what was said is interesting, as LeBron seems to take an unfair jab at Jordan's game right after he praised.
Before diving into the debate itself, it's important to understand how this interview even came together. ESPN reporter Dave McMenamin has reportedly been conducting a series of private one-on-one conversations with LeBron James throughout the season, covering a wide range of topics over multiple meetings. For months, these discussions remained largely out of the public spotlight until ESPN began releasing portions of the material. The way the project has been presented has caught the attention of many fans, who see it as more than a standard interview series. Instead, it feels like the early stages of a larger career retrospective, documenting LeBron's thoughts, legacy, and place in basketball history as he enters the later chapters of his remarkable career.
At Jordan's game, right after he praises him. Let's talk about it. Okay, so these interviews might not be so secret, but they have been conducted without the public or the fans' knowledge throughout the season, and that's perfectly fine. But what I think is happening is ESPN is actually...
Many fans believe that's what makes this interview so fascinating. These conversations were reportedly part of a larger long-term project documenting LeBron James and the later stages of his career, meaning every answer was likely considered carefully rather than delivered spontaneously. LeBron has spent more than 2 decades under the spotlight and understands better than almost anyone how every quote will be analyzed and remembered. That's why some viewers were surprised when a discussion that began with praise for Michael Jordan quickly shifted into comparisons involving his own game and legacy. Supporters see it as confidence and self-belief from one of basketball's all-time greats, while critics argue it reflects the ongoing desire to position himself within the GOAT debate. Either way, the comments ensured that what started as a respectful conversation quickly became another chapter in one of sport's most passionate arguments.
That LeBron James actually takes a shot at Michael Jordan's game right after he praises him, which I don't like, because you don't see Michael Jordan taking shots at LeBron's game. But whatever, that's LeBron James. He's been this way all of his career.
The conversation reportedly took place in Chicago as the Los Angeles Lakers visited the United Center, a venue forever linked to the legacy of Michael Jordan. During the discussion, LeBron James reflected on wearing the iconic number 23 jersey, explaining that Jordan inspired him from a young age and expressing hope that he had honored the number throughout his career. The comments came across as respectful and heartfelt, fitting the tone of a career reflection interview. However, the conversation quickly shifted when ESPN's Dave McMenamin posed the question fans always want answered. What did Jordan do better than LeBron? And what does LeBron believe he does better than Jordan? That question immediately transformed a nostalgic moment into another chapter of the never-ending GOAT debate.
The goal was to actually have him talk about the aspects of his game that are better than Jordan's, just pure laid-bare opinion, no emotion in it, just analytically looking at him playing basketball and the parts that Jordan plays better than he does. Obviously, the conversation about the GOAT debate is going to follow. But LeBron is very reverential when it comes to Jordan. He wears number 23 since the time he was a child because Michael inspired him. He told me that Michael inspired me.
Before giving his answer, LeBron James reportedly acknowledged that whatever he said would likely be debated and interpreted in different ways. He then offered praise for Michael Jordan, highlighting Jordan's legendary mid-range scoring, elite post-game, and relentless competitive drive, qualities that have long been recognized as defining parts of his legacy. Few would disagree with those assessments, as Jordan's impact in those areas is widely celebrated throughout basketball history. However, the conversation took a more interesting turn when LeBron began discussing the differences in their styles of play. He described himself as a player who has always focused on creating opportunities for teammates, embracing the role of a point forward and prioritizing playmaking alongside scoring. That comparison quickly became the focal point of the discussion, reigniting debate over how the two legends approach the game and what qualities matter most when comparing their careers. The conversation became far more controversial when LeBron James explained that he has always viewed himself as a pass-first player, while describing Michael Jordan as someone who naturally looked for his own shot more often. That distinction immediately sparked debate because many fans interpreted it as LeBron positioning himself as the more complete playmaker and facilitator. Statistically, there is some support for that argument, as LeBron holds a higher career assists average, highlighting his role as an offensive creator. However, supporters of Jordan quickly point to the broader context, noting that Jordan scored more points per game while carrying a massive offensive workload throughout his career. As a result, what may have started as a comparison of playing styles quickly evolved into another heated chapter in the endless debate over which legend had the greater overall impact on the game. Supporters of Michael Jordan argue that raw assist numbers alone do not tell the full story. They point out that Jordan attempted significantly more shots throughout his career, not necessarily because he was unwilling to pass, but because his teams often relied on him as the primary scoring engine. This perspective becomes a major talking point when comparing the supporting cast surrounding Jordan and LeBron James during their finals runs. Advocates for Jordan note that LeBron generally played alongside teammates who provided more scoring production, allowing him greater freedom to operate as a facilitator. They also highlight that pace differences between the two eras were relatively small, arguing that era adjustments do not dramatically alter the comparison. As a result, what begins as a discussion about passing versus scoring quickly evolves into a broader debate about team context, offensive responsibility, and how greatness should be measured. Critics of LeBron James often point to final scoring support when challenging the idea that he carried a heavier offensive burden than Michael Jordan. They note that during several of LeBron's championship runs, his teammates provided substantial scoring production, including especially high outputs during the 2016 and 2020 title campaigns. By comparison, supporters of Jordan argue that his championship teams generally relied more heavily on his scoring, even when surrounded by strong talent. This perspective is frequently used to explain why Jordan attempted more shots throughout his career while still maintaining strong playmaking numbers for a primary scorer. Whether that proves one player was more valuable than the other remains a matter of interpretation, but it highlights how the GOAT debate often extends far beyond individual statistics and into questions of team context, responsibility, and supporting cast strength. Supporters of Michael Jordan argue that the difference between his scoring approach and that of LeBron James is often more about team construction than individual mindset. They point out that some of Jordan's championship teams received less scoring production from supporting players, forcing him to carry a larger share of the offensive load. From that perspective, Jordan's higher shot volume was less about being unwilling to pass and more about responding to what his teams needed to win. Meanwhile, LeBron's teams frequently featured multiple high-level scoring options, allowing him to embrace a more playmaking-oriented role. Critics of LeBron's comments argue that comparing those styles without considering roster context can oversimplify the reality of each player's situation. That is why the interview has generated so much attention, not because of the praise LeBron gave Jordan, but because of what many fans believe was implied beneath the comparison. The interview is being framed as a rare moment of unfiltered access, but the reality is more structured than spontaneous. Before any of the controversial comparisons, LeBron James even prefaces his answers by warning that his words might be misinterpreted, something that already signals a carefully managed message rather than casual reflection. Throughout the conversation with ESPN's Dave McMenamin, LeBron balances clear respect for Michael Jordan with pointed distinctions about how each of them played the game. He praises Jordan's scoring ability, footwork, and legendary competitiveness, but then shifts the focus toward his own identity as a pass-first, playmaking forward. In describing the differences, he suggests there are areas where their games diverge, even implying advantages depending on the category being discussed. Supporters see this as honest self-assessment, while critics interpret it as a carefully shaped narrative that elevates his own versatility while still paying homage to Jordan. The result is a conversation that feels spontaneous on the surface, but highly deliberate in its construction underneath. The broader context around this ESPN project involving LeBron James has led many fans to draw comparisons with earlier landmark sports storytelling, especially The Last Dance, which centered on Michael Jordan and his final championship run. That documentary became a cultural milestone by offering structured, retrospective access to Jordan's mindset, career, and competitive identity, ultimately reinforcing his legacy for both longtime fans and a new generation. In contrast, LeBron's ongoing season-long interview series with journalist Dave McMenamin is being viewed by some as a similar attempt at long-form legacy documentation, with repeated conversations designed to be released over time. While both projects aim to provide deeper insight into all-time great careers, the way LeBron's comments are being framed, particularly when comparing himself directly to Jordan, has sparked debate. Supporters see it as natural reflection from a player nearing the end of his career, while critics argue that repeatedly revisiting the comparison shifts focus away from his own accomplishments rather than strengthening them. The discussion between LeBron James and ESPN's Dave McMenamin also revisits one of the most debated parts of his legacy, his NBA Finals record compared to Michael Jordan. LeBron has previously acknowledged that the narrative around his Finals losses affected him early in his career, and he has pushed back on the idea that reaching the Finals should be treated as a negative rather than an achievement in itself. From his perspective, consistently getting to the championship stage reflects sustained excellence, even if it doesn't always end in a title. Critics, however, counter that the finals are ultimately about winning, and therefore view the win-loss record as a central part of legacy comparisons between all-time greats. This tension between longevity, opportunity, and ultimate success is what keeps the debate alive, as both players' careers are often evaluated through very different lenses of greatness. The core disagreement here goes beyond just finals totals. It comes down to interpretation, whether reaching the finals repeatedly should be seen as proof of dominance or whether finishing the job every time is the ultimate standard. In that framing, Michael Jordan is often cited for his perfect finals record, while LeBron James is evaluated for both longevity and volume of appearances at the highest level. Supporters of Jordan point to the idea that finishing undefeated in the finals is the clearest measure of execution when the stakes are highest. Supporters of LeBron counter that sustained finals runs across different teams and eras reflect a different kind of value, adaptability, durability, and consistent elite impact over time. The supporting cast argument adds another layer, but it remains interpretive rather than definitive. Team construction, competition level, and era context all shape how those numbers are read, which is why the debate rarely lands on a single conclusion. Even the question of intent behind LeBron's interview with ESPN and Dave McMenamin remains open to interpretation. Some see a carefully managed legacy conversation, while others see a veteran reflecting honestly on comparisons that have followed him for years. What remains clear is that both careers continue to be measured not just by numbers, but by the narratives built around them, and those narratives are still very much being written.